Yeah, I can see people joining the webinar now. Thank you for coming today. We will maybe wait for another 2 minutes to get started. So first of all, thank you for coming to this event. We're doing a Monash Medicine Students Chat this evening. And then Kevin will be the facilitators. He will be asking questions to Ethan and Luke. Kevin is a first-year medicine student at Monash University. He graduated last year from Melbourne High School with a very impressed ATAR score. And then Ethan and Luke, they're respectively in year 3 and year 4. They're doing their replacements right now. So you can see people still joining. Thank you. For today's session, we're gonna run from now to 8 o'clock. So in this 1 hour session, the chat, we're gonna cover anything you would like to know about doing medicine at Monash, including the preparations stage, the how to apply, the application requirements like UCAT, interviews, also about their personal experience, the student's life in Monash University. So also, in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to put that in the Q&A button section below here. And then after, we have final 10 to 15 minutes Q&A session to answer your questions in this seminar. So yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to Kevin. So Kevin will be the facilitator for tonight's chat. So shall we get started?
Yeah, great. So yeah, just another introduction quickly. Yeah, I'm Kevin. I'm a first-year medical student at Monash this year. Graduated last year from Melbourne High. And yeah, today I'm just going to be playing the role as the interviewer. I'm going to ask a couple of questions to both Ethan and Luke, who are my seniors, and they're just going to give me some of these answers. So today we're going to quickly go over the overview of the course first, and then we're going to transition into some student life and tips questions, and then end it off with a Q&A. So just bringing us into the topics, I would just like to ask either of you two, could you give me a brief introduction of the degree, the Bachelor of Medical Science and Doctor of Medicine course at Monash?
Or not sure if Luke would, I guess I'll start. So just an overview. So well, I'm only in my 3rd year. So the Bachelor of Medical Science and Doctor of Medicine, it's 5 years in total, and it's comprised of 2 preclinical years and 3 clinical years where you go on placement. So your first 2 preclinical years, I think you mainly learn the foundations of medicine. So you learn a lot more of the scientific side of medicine. So you learn a lot about physiology and you learn a lot about anatomy. Whereas, well, I'm only in my first clinical year, but in the 3 years of placement you get a lot of exposure to a broad range of medical conditions, and you get a lot more clinical experience. So experience in hospitals. And yeah, I think that's how I would characterize the 2 different parts.
Yeah, just to add on maybe, so that with the hospital work, you follow that like an actual team at the hospital. So you'd be the lowest, like kind of sort of like the youngest one in the team, I suppose, walking around with like a registrar, a consultant, a 5th year, an intern maybe, and you're just there to kind of see what's going on with the whole process. And in clinical years, you get a variety of rotations, whether that be emergency medicine, so perioperative medicine, like the medical side of things, surgical, and you also have specialty rotations like GP psychiatry, women's health, pediatrics as well.
Yeah, so yeah, like in first year, specifically like the subjects, like right now, I'm like 1 semester in. So far, we've mainly just been doing like physiology, anatomy, pharmacology, just anything you'd imagine you'd see in med, you'd probably see in med. If any of you guys have done biology before in year 11 or 12, it's pretty much the same workload as just doing 6 VCE bios, something like that. So just leading into the next question, Ethan, Luke, why did you guys choose to do medicine? Like me personally, I wasn't really planning on doing medicine. I got a little bit lucky with my parents forcing me to do the UCAT, and then I sort of went in blind and got quite lucky. I'm not sure about you two, how your experience is like.
Or did you want to answer first, Luke, or?
I mean, I can. I think like for me, I couldn't really see myself doing anything else. Nothing else really aligned with me. And I was also fortunate enough to receive the scores that were required for medicine, and that got me an offer. So it's kind of more so I couldn't really see myself doing anything else, and I wouldn't have missed out on the opportunity to study medicine otherwise. Like, I think it's always easier if I ever wanted to transition out of medicine, it's easier to go from medicine to something else than from anything else back into medicine. So when I had the opportunity, I thought, may as well give it a shot, and I'm loving it now. So I think it was a great decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, with what, with how Luke described it, I think I have like a lot of the similar reasons. So couldn't really see myself doing anything else. And I'm really like STEM science inclined, so I quite enjoy medicine now. And yeah, like the more years that I am doing medicine, and the more years that I am a medical student, the more interest I have in the field. But it's interesting because I'm with a couple of my medical student friends, and the reasons why we all decided on medicine is very diverse. So whether it be for a personal reason that you want to pursue medicine, or any other passion that you want to pursue medicine, you should always try to give it a go. I think some really good advice that one of my friends gave me is, I think when we were getting questions for this webinar, a lot of the students, you guys are quite young in the audience, so definitely if you're not sure on anything, you can definitely give other things a shot and just see what works for you, see what you like. Okay, yeah, those are my reasons for joining medicine.
I think, yeah, Luke brought up a really, really good point where it's like, it's very easy to, it's much easier comparatively to go from medicine into other fields, and quite hard to go from other fields back into medicine. And like, I thought that perfectly brought up the point of the difference between having the graduate pathway and the undergrad pathway. So like right now, all three of us are doing the undergrad pathway, which is the 5-year one. Could you guys tell me a bit more about that graduate pathway?
Yeah, I have some friends that are recently starting the graduate pathway now. So with undergraduate pathway, you do typically 3 years of an undergraduate because that's how long it takes. You might do an honors year, a 4th year, you might underload to make it more. And then you'd sit the GAMSAT, have your WAM, so your weighted average mark from university score from like biomedicine, science. I think most spots are allocated towards biomedicine students though. And then you have your MMI interview as well, which can get you a graduate spot. Keeping in mind, if you go this pathway, there's a lot more universities that are open to you in Victoria. It's like Melbourne University, for example. But the degree in total, like doing your undergraduate plus graduating and becoming and receiving the title of a doctor, I suppose, and then working as an intern, you'll be studying for 2 years longer. And there's also another hurdle from undergraduate to graduate that you'd have to cross over, which tends to be the trickiest part for most people.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Luke said. So that the main differences are it's 2 years longer, so it's a 7-year process instead of 5 years. You have to sit the GAMSAT, which is another difficult like standard entrance exam, and I think, yeah, I would say those are the two main differences, like the time difference as well as the difficulty difference.
Yeah, I'd also like to add the something to take into account is that you may be a full fee placement if you end up going the graduate pathway. I'm pretty sure all undergraduate placements are going to be Commonwealth supported by the government, meaning we pay like 80% less of the fees. while if you end up going the graduate pathway, only the first 3 years are government supported, while the second you enter the graduate years, every single year is like 90,000 per year, unless you get pretty much a scholarship or a CSP placement, which is another hurdle to really be, you'd have to be really stellar in that year's applicants to be able to be one of those. Yeah, so like Luke said as well earlier, there's the alternative to having a graduate means you're open to more universities, like Melbourne University as well. So, and also there's many interstate applicants, like you could apply medicine in different states. So why do you guys specifically choose Monash as the university you wanted to go to?
I can start. So for me, well, because I'm from Victoria, I live in Melbourne. So obviously the location is a factor, and going to a Victorian undergraduate university is definitely, it was more favorable to me than going interstate. So like it was just a matter of I managed to get into Monash, and Monash was my top choice. But I did apply for a lot more medical schools. I think I applied for Newcastle. I applied for University of New South Wales. I applied for Queensland Uni. I applied for Flinders. So there's a lot of unis that I did apply for. It's just a matter of fact that I managed to get into Monash. But yeah, if you do have a really big passion for medicine and you're definitely, you're set on doing medicine, you should definitely look for other unis and not just try to get into a Victorian university.
Yeah, I think keeping your options open again, like I'm the same reason. Like I'm from Victoria. I went to Melbourne High as well. So like it was the like I didn't want to, or I don't like I know some people who like have deliberately moved interstate because they want a new opportunity, right? Maybe put yourself in a new environment if that's a challenge that you might enjoy, all for it. But the overwhelming majority, I don't know about your year levels, Ethan and Kevin, but like in my year level, it tends to be like a good 80% of the kids are like, not 80% of the domestic kids tend to be from Victoria. Obviously, there's like a different, like, there's a whole international student sector as well that we're not considering. Yeah, mostly everyone's from Victoria. Then you got a couple people from like around Australia, like mainly New South Wales, Queensland, Western Australia, tend to be the rest. Yeah, and I think it's just more of a convenience factor for me, like why I chose Monash. It's in Victoria. Um, does it really matter which if you graduate from a different medical school? I don't really think so because the internship pathway is really it's laid out quite nicely so that even if you graduate interstate, you could try to intern, i.e., get your very first job as a doctor back into any other state through applications, and that tends to be a pretty seamless process from what I've heard from my seniors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
go on, Ethan.
Like I think there's not much content difference, and like any medical school that you apply to will, like, at the end of it, you'll be as qualified as any other medical student if you put in the work and the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've seen a lot of people online, they're very frightened about the idea of like rankings, like Melbourne Uni maybe being like ranked high or something like that. I've heard this from multiple people, as you guys have put so well as well, is just that particularly for medical degrees, no matter what uni you go to, it's pretty much all the same. As long as you get the degree, you get pretty much the same treatments. So let's transition into a different topic now. What are the entry requirements for Monash medicine?
I can start again. So the entry requirements are based off of three things. So and they're all evenly weighted. So they're all 33% each. So you have your ATAR, you have the UCAT, and you also have your MMI, which is the interview after so the interview comes after your ATAR and your UCAT. So I think if you get a high enough UCAT, you get automatically selected for like a first round interview. And then once your ATAR comes out, there are also subsequent rounds of interviews. So they're all weighted the same. And I don't think you should put, because they're all weighted the same, you shouldn't put importance of one over the other. Like, just to give you guys a bit of a personal anecdote. So my brother, he also graduated in Kevin's year. He got quite good scores in UCAT and ATAR, like, around the median. and I think it was his interview that so he didn't manage to get in, and I think it was because of his interview. So yeah, and just to give you guys a bit of a ballpark picture, I think the median last year for a non-bonded medical school or CSP Monash spot was 99.6, and I think the UCAT is still around 90th percentile, so around 3050.
Yeah, around 3000-ish, yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much most of it. Specifically, I know when I applied, I was really confused about so there's a thing called the first round interviews and the second round interviews, and I didn't know what the difference between that and like second round offers were. So first round interview is pretty much essentially just purely based on the UCAT. And that's pretty much if you get above around 3000, although that fluctuates every year depending on the difficulty. But this year it was 3050, as Ethan said. Once you get above that, you get invited back into a first round interview. This doesn't mean that they just don't look at your ATAR anymore. It's just that once your ATAR does come out, then it's weighted equally 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. The second round interview means that once the ATAR comes out, they will take your ATAR into account. So maybe you didn't make that UCAT cutoff, but your ATAR was good enough that it ended up being averaged out to be to pass that minimum requirement. Then they'll invite you for a second round interview, and both I think both interviews are like they're equal. It's not like you will just because you got the first round interview, you have a higher chance of getting in than the second round interview, or that you're given priority. All offers come out at the exact same time. So I got in through a second round interview because my UCAT was not great and my ATAR was good enough that I was able to get offered a second round interview. And I ended up getting the offers on the same day that all my friends that did the first round interview got their offers on. So yeah. Anything you want to add, Luke?
Yeah, I wouldn't like super be like fixated on all these scores though. I think everyone has a different story to tell. Like, I was also like a second round interview. But I think from my group, like interview panel, of, like 8 people, all 8 of us got in. So it just goes to show that it doesn't really matter. And I also had some friends in first round interview who didn't really stick through and get their offer. Even with ATARs as well, like although the median is like 99.6, like I definitely know a lot of people who have gotten like 98s and are in medicine. And people who might have even gotten perfect ATARs and didn't get into Monash medicine as well. So I think it's all weighted equally. So you should consider everything quite holistically. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the UCAT? Just like what it is and I guess how to score better on it. Do you guys know?
Ooh. So don't know if I'd be able to answer this question as good as you, Kevin, because it's been a few years.
Yeah.
But the UCAT it's a separate. So just add anything to my answer if you think I missed anything. So the UCAT is a separate standardized test. So it's separate from the ATAR. It's separate from any like Victorian test, and you have to register for it. I think around mid-year. So I think you can take the test starting from July going to August, and the UCAT is only applicable for the year that you do it in. So if you want to do undergrad medicine in another year, then you have to do it in the year that you want to apply. And the UCAT it contains 4 sections. You have the verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, decision making, and abstract reasoning. 5 sections, and a situation.
Yes.
And they all test different areas of your, like, if I were to say a specific subject, probably your I don't know. It's all very different. Do you wanna help me out, Kevin? Like what areas?
I mean I did it, but I didn't do great on it. So I'd say so verbal reasoning is I think it's very similar to reading comprehension,
Yeah,
right?
it's like a reading comprehension test, kind of.
Yeah.
It should be really fast. Yeah.
Decision making is like being able to read like long worded math problems, sort of.
Yeah, kind of like logic games, I feel, now that you say that.
Yeah.
Like logic games.
Yeah, and then abstract reasoning is pretty much similar to most abstract reasoning. If anyone's done it before, it's just like shapes and finding patterns, finding patterns between sets of shapes, finding the next shape in a pattern, that kind of stuff. And then what was the last one?
And the last one, I think you missed numerical reasoning. So in numerical reasoning, I remember it's just you get a lot of, I think it's like 55, no, not 55, but you just get a lot of math questions, and they're quite simple, but the main thing is you have to be able to do them really fast and be able to interpret information really fast.
Yeah. So yeah, those 4 are the ones that actually like count towards your UCAT score. The 5th one, situational judgment, isn't actually like it's not actually looked at when you apply for med, I don't think. But it's essentially just a morality test. If you score really badly on it, it may raise some red flags, but otherwise I'm pretty sure that one isn't really taken into account. Anything you want to add, Luke?
Probably also that it's like time intensive, quite time intensive compared to like any other test you've probably done before. So a lot of people, I think the biggest stress is that people don't end up finishing. But I think everyone gets through it.
Yeah. Any tips for how to score higher, you guys?
Or the main thing is just practice. I think so like if you guys want to get a rough idea of what the UCAT is, there's like free practice questions and a free practice exam available online. But in my year I paid for a subscription to a practice online practice software. I think it's called MedEntry. And just do lots of practice. Like I just did most of the, the question bank questions, did all of the practice exams. So it's definitely practice. Yeah, I think that's the best way to study.
Yeah. I think the year I did it, like I didn't do too much studying for it, but well, that's also why I didn't do great. But I had a lot of friends that did it, and I think usually the recommendation is to start practicing for the UCAT about half a year to a year before. Would you say that's
yeah, in terms of the time frame, I would say I started practicing at the start of year 12. So like during those holidays, because I had nothing to do and just trying to be productive.
Yeah. It's around half a year, yeah. And how would you guys say you like practice to improve your interview?
Oh, I can go first again. So for my interview, I was quite lucky to have a family friend who was in 4th year at the time, who was a Monash medical student, and she helped me through it. But if you guys don't have any friends who are doing it, I would say there are interview questions online that you can practice yourself with. But I would also recommend you can get someone online to help you with interview practice, like kind of like an interview tutor.
Yeah, I think just go through practice stems. Yeah, I probably practiced not that a lot for my interview, so I don't really have that great advice for this. I recall looking at some practice stems that I think I got off another student who sent it to me and just read through what the cases could be and just prepared myself, I guess, mentally for that. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I had a friend that also got a second interview, and they just sent me like a 100-page document just full of scenarios. And speaking of, I should probably ask what is the actual format of the MMI? So the MMI is the interview, by the way.
I'm not sure how many stations it would be like in the following years, but in my year, I think it was 6 stations, and you had 7 minutes on each station. And in each station, you were presented like a scenario, and each scenario had a few questions to answer. And the question types, they're mainly around your decision-making skills. And I think it involves a bit of medical ethics as well. So as like for lack of a better word, it's sort of like testing your ability to respond appropriately to real life medical situations.
Yeah. So yeah, I just quickly just so I'm pretty sure your year, I think you might have been during so it was 6 stations then. I think it was 8 stations when I did it.
Yeah, mine was COVID years. Yes.
6 stations, yeah. So it's 8 stations now, and yeah, the entire interview takes around 90 minutes, I think. So it's not it's not like the typical interview you think of, which is like a 5 to 10 minute interview. It's like 90 minutes of pretty much like you being able to justify answers to ethical problems, like Ethan said. Yeah, do you guys have any examples for like MMI interview questions? Just like a
Oh, I don't
on
have
the
any on
spot.
hand. I don't
Yeah.
have any on hand. But yeah, I think one of the questions in my year was, oh, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this.
Oh wait, right, yeah.
Yeah.
We're bound by
Okay,
confidentiality,
maybe we should
right?
shy away from those and we should just stick to doing practice questions. Yeah.
Right. That's all good. I'll keep that question to the end. Maybe during the Q&A, I'll do a quick search online and see if I can find any practice, and I'll find you guys one. Let's move on for now. Yeah, let's move into specifically during VCE, how people can prepare for med. So like, what subjects would you say like VCE students should be choosing or have to choose to do med?
I'll take this one. I think the only one you have to do is chemistry. Still, is that still a thing? Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's a minimum 25 study score, I think.
I wasn't. I thought it was 30 for chemistry.
Oh, is it 30?
Might have changed. In my year, it was 35.
35.
I can do a quick search.
I thought it was 30 my year level when I went for it in 2020. Yeah. Anyways, in terms of other subjects, I don't think there's a requirement for anything. I think it's recommended that you do biology, but if you don't do it, you'll still go through it within the first semester, so you'll be fine. But I think just choose subjects that you enjoy and that you are confident that you can score well in. Obviously consider what scales as well. Just normal VC subject advice.
Yeah, I agree with Luke, and chemistry is a must. And yeah, if biology is recommended, but lots of my friends didn't do bio, so in the first semester they just did a biology bridging course. So it's just extra materials that they did along with what they were doing in the medicine course. In terms of recommended subjects, because I feel like some people might be wondering what subjects they should do. As a reference point, I obviously did English, I did math methods, I did specialist maths, I did 2 languages, I did French and Chinese, and I did chemistry because I didn't do well on Chinese. So redid another subject. But my subjects, they all scaled pretty well. So I think there is a bit of a trick to doing well in VC, and it is definitely easier to get a better study score. Just to get a better study score doing a scaled subject. But again, you have to take into account what you are good at and what you are interested in. You shouldn't pick a subject you completely hate just because it scales well. Okay. So yeah.
Adding on to that with my own experience, I also did some pretty good scaling subjects, mainly specialist methods in Chinese second language. I did those 3, but like building onto that story, I sucked at Chinese. I absolutely hated Chinese second language, and I didn't score horribly in it. But in the end, I actually ended up grinding my biology really hard, and I actually got a higher bio score than my scaled Chinese score, and I was able to push my Chinese out of my top 4. So like really yes, scaling subjects help, but do absolutely take into account what you think you're good at and what you like. Any tips from you, Luke?
Yeah, I for reference again, I did accounting, university extension accounting, chemistry, method, spec, and English language. Clearly, I think the choice of like methods and spec were both for like scaling, and also because I was STEM oriented. Accounting, I just did it because I enjoyed it. Did it in year 11. Did uni extension accounting because I also enjoyed it. Yeah, that's kind of just 2 subjects that you enjoy, and then you'll find that you do well in them, I suppose.
Yep. This might be a little bit of an out there question. Do you guys know the differences between VCE entry and IB entry?
You can go, Luke.
It's one of the questions I've got written
school
here,
offer IB,
sent in by a student. So
because I know Melbourne High doesn't offer IB, so I'm not actually 100%.
Oh,
I know
I can
IB.
help.
Yeah, we
My
don't.
school, my school had a pretty big IB presence. So the main so like obviously they have different subjects. Okay, so in IB languages you also have to do a language as a compulsory subject, and the subjects are obviously different. And the way that your IB score is calculated and your ATAR is calculated is also different. So in the IB, you don't have study scores. Instead, you have scores out of 7 for I think 7 subjects, or no, for 6 subjects, and they basically do like a conversion between each score and an ATAR. So, for example, the maximum score you can get is a 45, and a 45 out of 45 is a perfect ATAR, and I think a 44 out of 45 is like a 99.85, and it just goes down from there. So the main difference is, apart from the subjects and the scoring, I think IB is also a lot more extracurricular oriented. So I know that in the IB you have activities such as an extended essay, which is like a 2,000-word essay with a specific thesis that you choose that you have to do over the holidays. I think there's also you guys will have to search this up, but I think that there is also some form of community service requirement as well. So yeah, it's definitely more extracurricular oriented.
Yeah, like I do want to just add, like, don't feel discouraged if you're doing IB. A lot of applicants are like VCE applicants, but like I know a bunch of friends, because there's a huge international cohort in medicine. I know a bunch of friends that got in through A levels or IB. So like, don't at all feel discouraged. If IB suits you more, absolutely go for IB. Yeah. Do you guys have any strategies for like academic success in general, just during VCE and like medical school?
I can take this one. I think you should just try a lot of different methods of studying, find what works for you, and then stick with it. That's what I found. I think even to fourth year medicine, I'm continually changing the way I study, whether that be through, I don't know, for example, this year, like, well, not actually this year, but like through medical school, I picked up a lot more on like spaced repetition, flashcards, memorization. I'm sure a lot of medical students can also agree with that, with the large amount of content that we have to go through. But in the past, I've like used diagrams, always using things like practice papers as a resource. And yeah, I think the biggest, most important point for VC for me probably is that you shouldn't be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid of like not knowing something. So like if you don't know something, you should really hone in on it. Try to make sure that you can figure out like what you're getting wrong and learn from your mistakes. Yeah.
Completely agree with Luke. I think that's testing out different study techniques is very good. In terms of what I did in year 12 and what I did now. So what I do now is, I think a really big part of studying for me right now is just being present whenever I'm at the hospital on placement. And I think that would correspond to you guys, like in your class at school. Just be present, like try to cut out distractions with friends, don't chat to your friends, just listen to what your teacher's teaching you, and just really focus in on your class. Because I think that is actually a big part of your learning. Like outside of doing homework, outside of your own study at home, focus up in class. And yeah, I also use some of the same study techniques as Luke, such as flashcards, etc., and all the other things he said.
Yeah, I mean, on my end, I'm still sort of figuring it out. Like, I'm not as much of a seasoned veteran as like Ethan, as Luca. So far, I've just been trying to really cater my study methods to what I know I'm pretty good at. Like, I know for sure that I'm better at memorizing stuff when I write it down rather than typing. So right now, I do take most notes by handwritten. I've heard later on in the years, that it's much more difficult to keep on doing that because the content is just so much. But like studying, like Luke said, studying is a constantly evolving process that you try to cater to yourself as you grow as well. So I will probably change when I eventually hit that obstacle, and maybe try and optimize my own methods as much as possible as well. So for any like VCE students right now, I'd say really try to figure out what you're good at and constantly trying to get better at it and improving your study methods to be catered to yourself. Bit of a fun question here. Did you guys give up playing on games and focus on studying when you were in year 12?
I certainly didn't. So
I've heard stories that you haven't.
yeah, I think like to an extent, this is different for everyone, okay? But I found out that I couldn't study every day after school all the time, and much to my parents' dismay, I enjoyed playing video games to sort of de-stress. So I definitely did not, and it's not it's not like compulsory. Like it's not a guaranteed thing that if you stop playing games and you grind your study out every single day after school that you'll achieve a perfect ATAR. It simply isn't like that. So you should definitely have ways to de-stress, whether it be playing games, watching a movie, going outside, spending time by yourself or with your friends. Having a way to de-stress is important. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you don't, I mean, I think a balance is important, obviously. If you can get all your minimum like required work done for the day or for the week or whatever, I think it's completely fine to take a break, de-stress, as everyone should. And that's something you should continue doing, not just through high school, middle school, whatever, but in just the rest of your life as well. I think it's very important because that is what creates productive work and a better version of yourself. So you can not be like as stressed when you're trying to study, for example, or when you're working for it per se. But yeah, I think just having a good balance for it, and finding that balance is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I unfortunately didn't have Ethan's level of discipline, so it is up to a personal level. Like some people are able to exhibit that discipline. If you know you didn't have the discipline, like I knew I wasn't able to. I mean, I was never big into games, so games wasn't really the issue for me. For me, it was mainly like social media, TikTok, that kind of stuff. I knew I didn't have that ability to keep myself away from it. So I deleted TikTok when I went through year 12. If that is what's applicable to you, I'd encourage you to do it. If it's not and you are able to control yourself, then social media can absolutely be one of those things that takes away that stress from your life, which you do need to. Because yeah, I didn't go on TikTok, but instead I replaced that with outings with friends, right? I would go out with friends all the time. I'd play like sports all the time instead. Those are my methods of de-stressing. So absolutely, you do need to maintain a really good like work-life balance in year 12 as well. What would you guys say are like some possible university events and like expos you guys have been to throughout your degree so far?
Events and expos, like I guess like things that are offered within medicine.
Yeah, like conferences, I guess.
Conferences. I haven't been to, oh no, I've been to a conference in Korea over that was through medicine related through a research opportunity I had, and have one coming up later in June as well that I'll probably attend. But I think like conferences and like presenting your research or listening to other people's abstracts is like a big part of medicine, obviously, because medicine is constantly evolving with evidence-based practices. So new research and literature is always involved. That's like very academic though, something that you guys don't have to really worry about for a very long time. But in terms of like events, I know like there's like different committees within medicine. Like I think one that maybe people here might have heard of is like the Teddy Bear Hospital, for example. They run events at like primary schools, which aim to get rid of white coat or like doctor anxiety. Programs like that medical students can volunteer in. There's different interest groups within medicine as well, within the Monash committee, like surgical interest groups, lifestyle interest groups, where you can kind of meet like-minded people who enjoy different specialties, and they all host events. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Luke said. So it's more of a like once you get into medical school, like something you should worry about then, especially with research. So I just began my clinical year, so I'm not doing any research currently, but I'm certainly open to any research opportunities. But yeah, it's certainly something to worry about. Not right now in high school. Something to worry about when you're in med school.
Speaking of, Luke, did you present a research webinar like last week or something? I think I watched that.
I did, yeah.
The one where you submitted research in Korean university, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in that one. I watched that one. Great. This is pretty much the last question here. Could you use your VCE score to go to universities from other countries?
I can answer this one. So I know you can because I've got a few friends who applied to universities in America with their VC scores. For example, one of my friends applied to MIT, and I think he got shortlisted for an interview, but he didn't do the interview. So yeah, VC is like if you search it up online, VC is an internationally recognized education certificate. So you certainly can. Like it's not just IB that you can go international with. VC is looked at as well. But you know, you guys would also have to do additional domestic requirements for that university. It's different based on each university, but you would definitely have to do more research than just saying, "Oh, VC, I can apply to any uni with VC without anything else."
Yeah. I know a couple friends that have been overseas for their university. Friends in New Zealand. And I also know a couple of friends that tried to get into American universities. I think yeah, every university is different, especially depending on what country they are in. Because like I know some countries, though they recognize VCE, they still require you to take their country's standardized test. Like I'm sure if you want to go to an American university, you still have to take the SAT. Just doing VCE isn't enough.
Yeah.
So, or really anticipating or something, do a lot of research and don't miss those key dates. We have a little bit of time left before the Q&A session. I want to ask some of my own questions for you guys. How are you guys balancing your studies, clinical placements, and personal life? Because I'm out here struggling and like I haven't even done my placements yet. I haven't even started placements yet.
That's a good question. So I can go first because I'm sure Luke definitely has like more to share. So in my clinical years, I would say I definitely struggle with the content a lot, mainly because I live really far from Monash and it's such a long commute. So times were tough back then, and so yeah, like the pre-clin years are definitely like whilst there are the advantages, I think the content that you learn is actually a lot more different to what you will actually experience on your placements on the wards at hospital. And in terms of the balance, well, in pre-clin, I think it's all about keeping up every week. You have to dedicate a lot of time every week to watch all your lectures, to do all of your learning modules. And on placements, so far what I've found is it's more of a self-directed learning speed. So I can dictate how fast I want to learn stuff. So in third year, and I think in the years following, you get a matrix which covers some core curriculum concepts. So like right now, it's just like a list of core conditions that you should learn about, and that's what the clinical years are all about. Like learning how these conditions present, learning how to manage these conditions, and yeah, rather than learning the science behind it.
Yeah, Luke.
Yeah, I find that so like when I was in pre-clin as well, I think my strategy was like just making sure I completed all the like weekly lectures every week. I had that like done so I could at least stay engaged during like the tutes. For third year, the matrix, geez, I think like it always scares everyone at first because look, it's like 150 conditions that you have to learn. They're separated by the ranking in terms of difficulty, or not difficulty, but how important it is, sorry. And you want to know diagnostic criteria, investigations, management, things it could present similarly to, i.e. differential diagnoses. That's just kind of scratching the surface of what you need to know about a condition. It could be even more in depth. I find that although it's a lot of work in third year to learn all of this, it really sets the concrete foundation of like your clinical knowledge from like this point onwards. So once you get through those 150 conditions, those like conditions are going to like serve you very well in the future because it's going to be like the 150 like most common conditions you'll probably see in your presentations as a doctor. And I find that medicine is constantly a practice of learning, forgetting and relearning, but every single time that process is repeated, that you are a lot more knowledgeable than you were before. so I can probably tell you guys that like I've probably learned about like I've like looked on like my notes for like ischemic heart disease for like every single year I relearn it probably, but I just kind of retain more information than last time, and I can go into a better depth of knowledge than before. So I find that although it is a bit scary sometimes, you like where I might rock up to placement, a consultant might ask me a question and I have no idea what he's talking about. At least like I can take that as a learning opportunity. And well, I think, yeah, you're constantly going to be learning in medicine. Um, so I think that was a tangent from the original question, actually. The question was like, how do I manage my work-life balance? I find that learn a lot on placement. I feel like what I learn on placement sticks with me. Um, as opposed to like reading like a textbook. Like right now, I'm on psychiatry. Like I could read the DSM-5 and make notes on it maybe, but that's not going to stick as much as me going with a consultant to see some patients who are admitted under psychiatry. That's going to help me really contextualize everything and see how it actually works in practice. Do that, and then I think, yeah, self-paced study, work towards short-term goals. That's what helped for me. I think Ethan knows like the pathology exams. I think I use them as a general indicator of like where I should be at throughout the year. Like I should at least have finished like up to this like system, for example. So that's what I did. And then social life, I think I'm a big fan of keeping at least one weekend free for friends, family, whatever. And always like I suppose give some time off for yourself as well during the week there as well when you can. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We're gonna move into a bit of the Q&A section. If any of you guys have any questions, please do send them through now. In the meantime, I'm gonna go through some of the questions that have already been coming in. First question we've got here is asking, how will Monash University select who will enter medical school after VCE, depending on ATAR only or other exams, including interviews? So
I think we've already answered this one, but yeah, they base it off your ATAR, your UCAT that you do around the mid-year, and also your MMI interview, and they're all weighted evenly.
Yep. And then, so our next question was about scholarships. So can you mention anything about scholarships? I think he's referring specifically to earlier when I called CSB placements a bit of like a scholarship. Essentially, CSB means it's Commonwealth supported placements. So currently, all bachelor degrees are Commonwealth supported. The special thing about undergrad medicine is that essentially we're doing a master's degree inside of a bundle that is also Commonwealth supported, and that's why it's a little bit cheaper for us. While if you went the graduate pathway, only the first 3 years of bachelor's are Commonwealth supported, while the last 4 years are all full fee placements, unless you're able to get a CSB spot, which you have to get through applications, which is essentially a scholarship. I think there's also like in faculty scholarships, but I'm not so sure about that one. Do you guys know anything about that?
Yeah, there are scholarships like in uni, like faculty scholarships. For example, there was one that I applied to last year. I think it was like an anatomical research scholarship over the summer. I'm not sure. I didn't apply for any other ones, but like some of the major scholarships going from year 12 to university. There's obviously like Chancellor Scholarship at Melbourne, and there's a Monash equivalent where you get a 99.95. There's a Monash equivalent. Not sure about any other scholarships specific to medicine. Not sure if there are any actually. I definitely know there's a biomed scholarship for medicine. Or not for medicine, just a biomed scholarship for biomedicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you're really curious about scholarships, I think you should just go onto the official Monash page. There's always changing like applications. It's always changing which like how many scholarships they're offering. There might be a new one they're offering that we're not too aware of from the jump of year 12 to medicine. I think internally before, like Ethan was talking about within medicine, there is like the winter and summer coursework scholarships, which are based around research opportunities. And basically they'll just give you a stipend or like a bit of a sum of money. for participating in research programs over the summer holidays or winter holidays, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, sorry.
Oh, I just said, yeah, that is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it's also quite important to mention that I know traditionally a lot of people would think that scholarships are only given to those who get the highest scores. That's not true. Only a few, I'd say only a couple of the scholarships are actually for high achievers. A lot of them are actually for like you have to show examples of financial stress or like certain like special circumstances for you to actually receive them. So yeah, and the application process is like in year 12 through VCAR. So it's a whole different thing. Someone's asked here, what is the minimum ATAR requirement to get into medicine school? So I think we mentioned this earlier. It's the median is around 99.6. Although like you shouldn't be too caught up on that. Many people do get in with lower. Usually I'd say, I don't want to give a strong minimum, but I'd say 98 is about as low as it gets.
Yeah,
What do you guys reckon?
depending on what types of, because everyone, people can have different types of special consideration. Not sure about the exact number, but I think the lowest ATAR an offer was made was 96 in my year. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But
yeah.
if you're a metropolitan student, which most people I think in the audience are, if you're a metropolitan student with no other special considerations, then yeah, the median ATAR to get in would have to be around 99.6.
Yeah.
And that's the median, so a bit less, bit more. So yeah.
Do you guys have any recommendations for companies, tutors, etc., for medical interview practices and trainings?
So the I do know two like big companies that do UCAT practice questions and interview practice. So the two companies are called MedEntry and Medify. I don't know any more beyond that. I think MedEntry and Medify are two really popular ones. And what they're really good for, they're just really good for question banks. So practicing your UCAT questions as well as doing practice exams, getting used to the time requirement. In terms of interview, so like I said before, I luckily had a family friend help me practice. But in terms of like how to best prepare for the interview, I think ideally you'd be able to get like a current Monash student to help you. So yeah.
Yeah, I think unlike the UCAT, for the interview, it's a lot easier to prepare for free. Like the UCAT, you sort of have to get one of those question banks that cost money. But for the interview, a lot of resources are free online. All the resources I used were free online, as well as a lot of YouTube videos that like show you what the exemplar response is, and those are like genuinely really, really useful. So our next question is, have you or anyone you know ever suffered any sort of trauma or stress from witnessing high-level medical emergencies or situations?
I can start. I think all the time. I think everyone does. I think it's part of the job. Yeah, I think, oh yeah, it's just part of the job. I think anyone you talk to, especially in clinical years, they're always recommended to debrief after any stressful circumstance, talk about it with your colleagues. But I would say that is not something you can avoid with the nature of medicine.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with Luke. So yeah.
Yeah. How many hours would you guys recommend studying every day in year 11 and 12 for VCE?
There's no specific hour requirement. I feel like you shouldn't judge your performance or your study based on how many hours you put in. Rather, it's more the quality of the study you do. I think you should, so as a baseline, I think you should be familiar with all the content that you're going to cover this week in class or like this area of a study, like during the week that it's being taught. So it's sort of like you already know what's going on and you have a good firm idea of what the teacher's doing and you can apply your knowledge that you already did at home.
Yeah, I agree. Staying ahead of the coursework tends to be a good idea. So you can at least you can ask questions like that are, I suppose, higher order, extent above what you're just learning. So you're not asking questions about the concepts, but about how you could apply them, maybe per se is what I mean. So you're just staying ahead and pre-learning things beforehand might help you do that.
Sorry, I'm lagging a bit right now. Do you guys think it's essential to take extra tuitions outside of school to do well in VCE? Or is the school curriculum enough for you to already do well in school?
Ooh, depends. You know, everyone's different. I had tutors outside of school. I think I just had an English tutor, as well as I did QS with I did maths at QS during year 12, just to do some more practice. But yeah, I'd say in general, like a lot more people that do well have tutors than people who don't have tutors. But then again, like I have a few friends from school who didn't do any tuition at all, who also did really well, like 98, 99 plus. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it's rather than like tutors being a cheat code, it's not a cheat code. It's a way for you to study more efficiently. They like if you don't put in the effort at tutor, you're not gonna magically get the benefits of tutor. You have to put in like as much, or if not way more effort as you would.
Yeah.
When should you start preparing for ATAR?
So there's not really a date you start preparing for the ATAR. Sorry. It's because like you automatically start, I guess, doing the ATAR in year 12. Like you start doing assessments that contribute towards your ATAR, and you know you will do the exams that contribute towards your ATAR at the end of year 12. But you can also do like a unit 3, 4 in year 11. So yeah.
Yeah. Luke, any?
Whenever your first 3 and 4 subject is as opposed, because that's what actually contributes towards your ATAR. I know of some people who have like, I think some schools like even offer it in like year 10. But I think this is all, I'm sure like your school counselor will have a better idea of what you should be doing maybe. Yeah, depending on each person.
Yeah, absolutely. So wait, this one I think I'll answer. They've asked, is the Bachelor of Physiotherapy counted as a medicine degree, and does it require the UCAT? So I have quite a few friends doing a Bachelor of Physiotherapy. No, I don't think it's counted as a medicine degree. And I don't think you need the UCAT either, but you can search that up online. I'm 90% sure you don't need the UCAT for it though. So no, it's not counted as a medicine degree, although the requirements are still very high. I think most of my friends that got into physiotherapy got around a 95, 96. So it is still a very competitive pathway. Still a very competitive course. Yeah. Could you please explain the difference between a bonded and a non-bonded place?
Sure. So the difference between a bonded and a non-bonded place is the requirement of work that you have to do after you graduate. So in Monash medicine, I think there's 3 main like distinctions between the way you got in. So the normal one with no added requirements, there's a bonded position, and there's also the Dean's Rural cohort list. So I'll go through the bonded position first. So the bonded position is a requirement of having to work in a government designated rural area. And for me, it's 3 years after I graduate. It might change the duration you have to work rurally, depending on what year you graduate or get into medicine. I know that one of the hospital staff, so an intern that I was working with earlier on this year, his requirement for working rurally after he graduated from a bonded position was only 1 year. And currently the year that I got into med school it's 3 years rurally. And the Dean's Rural cohort list, it's another entry pathway into medicine. So instead of working rurally, you have to do all of your placements rurally when you're on the Dean's Rural cohort list. But you do have the choice of doing one placement in a metro hospital, I think in final year. And there's a difference in the entry requirements for each one. So you can put all 3 down on your application list when you apply for uni. And the ATAR requirement changes. So I think for bonded, it was like a bit lower. The ATAR requirement for bonded median was 99.2 in my year. Not sure for Dean's Rural cohort, but yeah, you can put all 3 down on your applications list.
Yeah. So just a quick question. It's now, I think they changed the name from Dean's Rural Cohort. Now it's called Extended Rural Cohort. I'm part of the Extended Rural Cohort. So yeah, it's just essentially you're not binded by legal contract to work afterwards. That's bonded. Instead, just in your 5 years, you have to complete 2.5 years of your placements rurally. And like from what I've seen, there's not actually a really pattern to the way they give it out. It's not like if you get a lower ATAR, you will end up getting an ERC placement or a bonded placement. I know many friends that got a really high ATAR but still got bonded for some reason, and then some that didn't get as high of an ATAR that got the normal option. So that's sort of just the way it goes. I think here someone's asked about the alternative pathways into Monash medicine, and I think we've already talked about that one, which was the graduate pathway and the undergrad pathway. So we're all the undergrad pathway, while the graduate pathway, you have to first do 3 years of a bachelor, and then you can go into you can take the GAMSAT and an interview to get into graduate medicine. A few people also like to take a gap year, which is, I think, so they, yeah.
So after you complete year 12, you can take a gap year and your ATAR will still be valid for the next year that you apply, but you have to resit the UCAT. And I think it's also mentioning if you want to pursue the graduate pathway, I'm pretty sure Monash postgrad medicine only accepts Monash undergraduate.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Undergraduate students. So if you want to do graduate medicine at Monash, you have to do your bachelor's at Monash.
So do you know the basic like timeline for when interviews for Monash are normally held and how soon you get the outcome and the offer?
Yeah, I think because my brother did it last year, so I think his ATAR came out on like December 16th or something around that time, or December 12th maybe, and then the interviews were done on around like January 6th to 8th, and then offers came out the 22nd of January. Just a rough timeline.
Yeah,
you'd know better.
Yeah, that's second round interviews. So that's what I did as well. First round interviews, it's so first of all, like the UCAT is from July to August, and you get your UCAT results the day that you do the UCAT, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, so with your UCAT score, if you get a first round interview, like good enough UCAT, you get a first round interview. I think first round interviews were in November. And then first round interviews were in November, and then December ATARs come out, and then second round interviews were early January, and then results were early February. I think that's the general timeline.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yep. And do you have any specific online resources, YouTube videos, or recommendations for medicine interviews?
I think there's a website called Fraser Interviews Online. I'm not sure what it's specifically called, but it has the word Fraser in it. So that's like an interview question bank. And I'm not aware of any other interview materials or resources.
Yeah, I sort of just had a PDF a friend sent me. I'm not sure about you, Luke.
Yeah, I had a PDF as well of questions. I don't know where it's gone now. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a lot of different YouTube like recommendations because the MMI is not just something that they offer at Monash and as well. They have it at different universities all over the world as a way of taking an interview. So I'd imagine there's a heap of resources on how to prepare for that online through people who have sat it maybe in Australia, also the UK. You can get different perspectives on it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So someone's asked me, do you need to choose your major first before the VCE scores are released? And I think this is actually a pretty interesting question because specifically for medicine, you don't choose anything. I don't think you get 0 choices in your timetable, 0 choices in your major. They pretty much decide everything for you. For other stuff other than medicine, I'm actually not too sure about.
just for medicine, I think they might be asking about like the application for the course. not the
Oh,
major. So yeah, I mean, what Kevin said still applies. So yes, whilst you're in year 12, you can choose the university courses that you want to do before your VC score comes out, and you're allowed to change your preferences after your score comes out as well. I think for medicine, the deadline for my year was September 30th. So you had to lock in medicine in one of your preferences by September 30th for Monash medicine, because it's the only undergraduate medicine pathway in Victoria, or else you wouldn't be considered. Like you can't apply after September 30th. And I think you can keep changing your preferences until February when uni's already started. So yeah.
right. Yes. That makes a lot. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, Ethan. Yeah. Yeah. Specifically for that, I have a personal story about that as well. So, be really careful with your preferences. Medicine preferences end earlier than VCE preferences in general. So other courses, you can add them on, take them off all the way up until February. But yeah, medicine cutoff is September. So, and once you put medicine on, the second you take it off, you're no longer eligible to be an applicant. So yeah, be really careful about that you guys have it in your list of preferences when you before the time limit, before the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to share one of my friends from high school. So he actually did quite well on his ATAR and his everything, but he just forgot to put in medicine. So that was very unfortunate. Now he's doing medicine at Newcastle Uni in Sydney. So don't forget to apply for medicine.
Yeah, my story is that I didn't think I would get into medicine, so I only put ERC on. I didn't put either of the other two medicine options on. And when I went back to go change it, when my ATAR results came out, it was already way too late. So that's why I actually got the only offer that I could have gotten, which was ERC. Did you have a Chinese private tutor for VCE, and how did you do well in Chinese and all content heavy subjects? I think I'll answer this one. I didn't do great in Chinese. I did have a tutor. I only started with a tutor midway through my unit 3-4, and I think I would recommend getting a tutor for Chinese if you're really trying to go for these really high scores and you're willing to put in that time and effort. But yeah, once again, that's like all tutors are only as good as you are willing to put in the effort and dedication towards it. Yep, someone's asked, is Monash the only uni in Victoria for the undergraduate pathway for medicine?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. I think the only other medical school in Victoria is Melbourne, and that is a graduate pathway.
He's Deakin as well.
Oh, Deakin as well. Yeah, thank you. And during your year 11/12, are your assessment results always the top in the class?
Nah, I wouldn't say so. I think for English, I think I'd say I was pretty high. I was doing pretty good in English. But yeah, for my other subjects, if you get a few scores that you're not so happy with, it's all about your relative ranking. And as long as you're not bombing every sack, like you're not doing horrible on every sack, then you'll be fine. After all, your exam has a much higher weighting than your individual sacks.
Yep. I think we're going to be wrapping up around about now. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming in for the seminar. Thank you so much, Ethan, Luke. Anything you guys want to add last minute?
Maybe I say something. Thank you, Kevin. Actually, yeah. Well, to be honest, I'm a bit excited to see so many parents and the students interested about this workshop and then joining us. And then thank you, actually, Kevin, Ethan, and Luke. Actually, you're brilliant. You're sharing a lot of information from your heart. Some information I learned as well, actually. So by the way, if you don't know me, actually, I'm Kevin. Actually, I'm the QS school director, but I'm look after the QS school, the VC center as well, to trying to have some information with the actually some student ask. Actually, I can share some slide, and which is may giving a little bit more information. Just give me 1 second, and then I'm do the slide show. And then for all the, I mean, for all the panelists, please stay for just a few more minutes, and then thank you. So what I would like to say that is, let me share some screen. So regarding to the score, actually, I have a list here, but because a lot of the audience is interested about the Monash, I would like to say I mean, if you have received 99.95 or 99.9, actually in Melbourne University, actually you will get the direct entry. And then for Monash, I would like to say for Monash, I think for this year is 99.3. This is the top only about ATA, okay? But you need to pass the MMI and also the game set. There's a pathway. So before I stop here, actually this is the two quite important indicator for the ATA. There's one thing actually for the dentistry. If you would like to go for the La Trobe also offer the bachelor degree, is the MD degree. Actually, that is the 99.7. That is from the ATA point of view. I don't think the La Trobe need the UCAT. Yeah, no need UCAT for the dentistry degree. Dentistry. So I hope this is the answer some of the question. Actually, for the medical school, don't have much scholarship, except I would like to say you can say the Chandler scholarship. I think for medical school doesn't have much scholarship. Very quick, because this slide I can talk about half an hour, but very quick from the pathway point of view. Actually, that is the there's I would like to say mainly is about 3 pathway. One pathway actually is the undergraduate medicine medicine degree, which is the actually Kevin, Ethan, and Luke take. So this is the one of the most straightforward one. So that is the currently I would like to say Monash and the New South Wales in Sydney actually provide are 2 famous schools on that. Another one is the Guarantee Melbourne. What's the meaning of that? That is but you need to get the 99 above. And then you need to take undergraduate 3 years, and then you get the postgraduate medicine 4 years. You doesn't have to go for GAMSAT for this pathway, but they only guarantee you get a degree, is not guarantee CSP in postgraduate. So a lot of our students actually is if they go for this pathway, they still go for the GAMSAT in the undergraduate 3 years, because they would like to try to get the CSP. Then the tuition will cover a lot by the government. Again, for this pathway, they don't guarantee, they're not guarantee you get the GAMS the CSP in the postgraduate. Another one that is the postgraduate, that is you can do the science or the biomedical science in the Melbourne University for 3 years, and after that you go for the GAMSAT, one of the most challenge exam. And then if you pass that exam and also pass the MMI, you will get this postgraduate degree. When I'm talking about MMI is the interview. There one small pathway, that is the Monash. If you are the Monash biomedicine science, biomedical science degree, if you are in the top 10 for the cohort for that years, you no need GAMSAT, you will get invited to the interview. But that is well, actually, I think Ethan mentioned very important. That is because the Monash master degree, actually for the medical MD degree, doesn't, I think, is the only take the students from Monash University. And if you are the top 10, in the biomedicine cohort, you will get directly invited for the interview. But I need to say that the interview also filter in a lot of students. So very quickly, we won't have time to go through the detail. One more thing is actually, just trying to say that is in this month, actually, we chair 4 seminar actually focus on a lot of the medical and medicine degree actually. So the last one, which is the end of the May, we will have a guest speaker to talking about the medical school admission procedure, comparing between she will giving overall introduction of the medical school in each state. Well, may I suggest the way that is well, of course, Monash and Melbourne, very popular. But if the students who have a passion about medical degree, maybe my suggestion is not only focus on these 2 schools. If you really have a passion about medical degree, not only focus on the Melbourne and Monash, also put yourself on the other states as well. So this seminar in end of May is one of the best seminar. Actually, you won't see that in currently industry. The guest speaker are going to analyze each state, the medical school, and then we'll give some tips on that. All right. So, and also that's one is we also provide this is a very special, actually, one-to-one consultation. If you are really passionate about the medical school, actually, we provide a special one-to-one coaching, and this is the need to have a additional cost. Okay, so but if you have a very passion about the medical school, if you would like to get the one-to-one support from the admission process and from the study planning, you can take a photo on this one. All right, so I think I finish here. I'm not sure, just try to check if any others question get raised. If no, then I think thank you again. So, all right, really, I'm not planning to say something, but I can see the parents are asking a lot of questions related to this, and then that's why I jump up to say something. Again, thank you everyone. Thank you 3 panelists. You share a lot, especially your insight about the study. And also I would like to invite all the parents and the students to join in this, the end of the May, the 30th of May. Take a photo of this picture if you really want to join us. Okay, and I also would like to thank Emma doing all the behind the scene preparation. All right. Now then, we finish today's seminar. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin, Ethan, and Luke. So you guys did a great job, especially Kevin. Thank you for facilitating all the stuff, and thank you, Ethan and Luke, for your amazing answers. Now I think we are already 18 minutes past. So yeah, I can see like about 40 audience still here. Okay, Sherry Yang, maybe we can ask, you can answer the final, maybe 1 or 2 questions. Sherry, you can put your questions in the Q&A really quickly. Also, I can see Adam ask, if you are not successful in an interview in year 12, can you do another interview while doing a gap year? Do any of you have the answer for that? I think that's one. That's a very interesting one.
So if you're allowed to pause for 1 year, but if you already attempt an interview, then you can't reattempt the interview.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, Sherry asked, when should you start having tutors? I think that's really depends on your level, and yeah, do you guys have anything to add?
I think, yeah, it just depends on your level, and like Luke and Kevin have both said, it depends on if you're willing to put in the effort or not. I think as a good rule, if you're a parent, then when you think your child is at a mature enough level, or if you're a student, if you feel like you are at a mature enough level where you are willing to say, look, I'm willing to sacrifice some of my weekend or some of my hours after school just to dedicate myself to learning, and I'm not going to complain about it. I'm going to sit there and learn and really put my effort into it, then I think you can make that choice.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick one from Kate. During your year 11, 12, are your assessment results always the top in the class? No,
Oh,
Luke is
yeah,
shaking his head.
we already answered this one, but we sort of all
Okay.
agreed, nah, definitely not all top.
Yeah, yeah.
Should aim
what
to
was it?
be like doing as best as you can and being in like top 25%, but absolutely not. You don't have to be the top.
When should a VC student have a tutor? I think we've done that. What are your tips or experience with doing chemistry for VC? Are you guys great at chemistry?
I was all right. I think I got like a raw 40. Certainly not the best. I'd say it's all about content. Just make sure you're up to speed with all the content. Try to learn ahead. Like some subjects require really like a conceptual understanding, such as math, specialist maths or math methods. And some subjects are just about knowing your content through and through, and that chemistry is one of those. So definitely a lot more work studying, just pure reading up on things in chemistry. So just make sure you're up to speed with the content you learn every week.
Yeah, thank you. Would you guys say chemistry or biology is the most useful one for doing your medicine degree, not for VCE?
Maybe bio. I'm certainly not speaking for every med student, but probably
Yeah.
bio for like the first half of pre-clin. So
Hmm.
maybe one semester of first year.
Yeah, I'm in that first half of semester, and it's definitely bio so far. A lot of the stuff we've learned so far is very overlapped with biology. But you do need a solid foundational understanding of chemistry to understand a lot of what's happening. So
Yeah. Also, just a quick question. Should I do bio 1, 2, or just go through? I think it's okay to just do 3, 4, right? Yeah. Okay. The last one from Qi I think this person is asking from a international student's point of view, right? So can I take PTE exam without IELTS? We're not too sure. That's for the English entrance requirements. So definitely check the uni website for the course, and you can see. For just absolutely the last one, thank you, Sha. For first, okay, we got another one. For first round interview, what is the minimum UCAT score to have an interview opportunity? It varies each year, right?
3,000 in general, probably a little bit higher than 3,000 because it's growing recently.
Yeah, 3,000. Grace, how to improve English score. So Ethan, you can take that. That's
Yeah, Ethan can take that.
Yes,
He was my English tutor.
yeah.
QS. I was an English tutor at QS. Kevin was one of my students, and he got a very good score for English. Do you mind if I share what you got?
Yeah, go for it.
Kevin got 45 raw, which is a very impressive score. The number one tip for you is, if you're not in year 12, if you're younger, read English books. Okay, that's the biggest tip for you. Literally just take any English book. It doesn't have to be a book you learn in school. Just develop a passion for reading, because from year 7, like I was horrible at English in year 7, and then I slowly improved just because I really liked reading. Any books, like fantasy, fiction, science fiction, like any books. Just put your hand on any book and start reading. And if you're in year 12, well, I would say if you're in year 12 or year 11 and you can't really improve English that fast just by reading books unrelated to your course, really put in the effort and learn your course related stuff inside out. And I'm not really sure of specific learning strategy of how to boost your score immediately in year 12. Like, okay, the best things to do in year 12 probably just know your course related books inside out. Like a lot of students ask, oh, how do I improve this? How do I improve my score for English? When a lot of them just don't read their books fully, right? So you got to read your books fully first of all, and do lots and lots of prompt planning and practice. That's my second tip, probably. Like outside of just reading, you got to plan out your prompts and practice essay writing.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan. Yeah, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys again for doing this incredible, informative session. And yeah, I thank you so much for joining this seminar. All of the audience, thank you very, very much. I hope you have a great night. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Ethan. And thank you, Luke. And see you next week in QS, maybe. Bye. And
Thanks.
yes.
Thank you, everyone. See you later.
Yeah.
Thank you.